Abstract, effective hiring processes serve as critical determinants of organizational competitiveness and long term performance outcomes. Despite widespread recognition of recruitment's strategic importance, many organizations continue to implement suboptimal practices that result in costly hiring mistakes, extended vacancies, and diminished employer brand equity. This article synthesizes empirical research to provide evidence based recommendations for designing superior hiring systems that attract, evaluate, and integrate top talent. Key areas examined include establishing proper infrastructure and accountability frameworks, crafting compelling candidate experiences through strategic employer branding and user centered application processes, implementing holistic evaluation methodologies that reduce bias, and developing robust onboarding programs that accelerate new hire productivity. By systematically applying these research grounded strategies, organizations can transform recruitment from an administrative necessity into a strategic capability that delivers measurable competitive advantages through improved hire quality, reduced turnover, and enhanced organizational performance. After 2 decades consulting with organizations across industries on talent acquisition transformation, one truth remains constant. The difference between mediocre and exceptional hiring processes often determines which companies thrive and which merely survive. A flawed recruitment system creates cascading consequences: extended vacancies that strain existing teams, poor hiring decisions that require expensive corrective action, and damaged employer brands that repel precisely the candidates organizations most need to attract. The stakes have never been higher. In today's competitive talent markets, where qualified candidates evaluate multiple opportunities simultaneously and employment information circulates instantly through digital networks, every interaction between candidate and organization carries outsized weight. A confusing application process, an unprofessional interview experience, or radio silence following submission can permanently damage relationships with potential talent and their extensive professional networks. Yet many organizations continue treating recruitment as a transactional administrative function rather than the strategic investment it represents. They under-resource their talent acquisition teams, rely on outdated evaluation methods proven to predict performance poorly, and neglect the critical transition period when new hires form lasting impressions about their decision to join. This article synthesizes robust empirical research to provide actionable guidance for building hiring systems that consistently identify and successfully integrate top performers. The recommendations span the complete talent acquisition lifecycle, from establishing proper organizational infrastructure through delivering exceptional onboarding experiences. By grounding practices in scientific evidence rather than intuition or tradition, organizations can systematically optimize their approach to gain measurable competitive advantages. The talent acquisition infrastructure landscape, defining strategic recruitment capability. Strategic recruitment capability represents far more than simply filling open positions efficiently. It encompasses an organization's systematic capacity to identify, attract, evaluate, and integrate individuals whose competencies, motivations, and values align with current needs and future strategic direction. This capability rests on three foundational pillars: adequate dedicated resources, clear structural frameworks defining roles and responsibilities, and measurable accountability for outcomes. Research distinguishes between organizations that view recruitment as a cost center requiring minimization versus those recognizing it as a strategic investment warranting optimization. Capelli and Keller, 2014. This fundamental orientation shapes resource allocation decisions, process design choices, and ultimately hiring outcomes. Organizations treating recruitment strategically allocate sufficient budget for technology platforms, employer branding initiatives, and most critically, dedicated personnel focused exclusively on talent acquisition, rather than expecting hiring managers to recruit alongside their primary operational responsibilities. Current state of organizational practice. Despite growing recognition of talent's strategic importance, significant gaps persist between research supported best practices and common organizational approaches. Many companies continue relying heavily on intuition based evaluation methods, despite substantial evidence demonstrating their poor predictive validity. Highhouse, 2008. Structured processes with clearly defined competency requirements, standardized evaluation criteria, and documented decision-making frameworks remain relatively rare compared to ad hoc approaches, varying considerably across hiring managers. Resource allocation patterns reveal similar disconnects. While executives frequently cite talent as their top strategic priority in surveys, actual budget allocations often fail to match this rhetoric. Human resources teams responsible for recruitment typically operate with constrained headcount, limited technology investments, and insufficient professional development opportunities to build specialized expertise. Billsbury, 2007. This undersourcing creates predictable consequences: extended time to fill metrics, excessive reliance on external agencies, and inconsistent candidate experiences that damage employer brand equity. The accountability dimension presents particular challenges. Many organizations lack clear metrics defining hiring success beyond basic efficiency measures like time to fill or cost per hire. More sophisticated quality indicators, new hire performance ratings, cultural fit assessments, retention rates, or hiring manager satisfaction scores, require more complex measurement systems that fewer organizations implement systematically. Cascio and Aguinis, 2018. Organizational and individual consequences of suboptimal hiring. Organizational performance impacts. Inadequate hiring processes generate substantial direct and indirect costs that accumulate across multiple dimensions. Direct financial impacts include extended vacancy costs when unfilled positions reduce organizational productivity, inflated agency fees when understaffed internal teams require external support, and separation costs when poor hiring decisions necessitate terminations and replacement searches. Conservative estimates suggest replacing an employee costs 50 to 200% of their annual salary, depending on role complexity and seniority, with senior positions generating particularly expensive mistakes. Cascio and Aguinis, 2018. Beyond these quantifiable expenses, suboptimal hiring creates harder to measure but equally consequential performance drags. Teams working shorthanded due to extended vacancies experience increased stress, reduced engagement, and higher attrition risk among remaining members, creating vicious cycles where departures generate additional hiring needs. Weber, 2013. Poor cultural fits disrupt team dynamics, consume disproportionate management attention, addressing performance or interpersonal issues, and may drive departure of high performers unwilling to tolerate dysfunctional environments. Strategic agility suffers when organizations cannot reliably access needed talent. Companies unable to quickly identify and attract specialized skills struggle to pursue emerging opportunities or respond to competitive threats requiring capability they lack internally. This talent-driven strategic constraint can prove particularly limiting in rapidly evolving industries where competitive advantage depends substantially on scarce human expertise. Individual and stakeholder impacts. Flawed hiring processes impose significant costs on candidates regardless of ultimate selection outcomes. Job seekers investing time researching organizations, customizing applications, and participating in interviews experience frustration and damaged perceptions when processes prove unnecessarily complex. Communications remain sporadic or absent, and feedback never materializes. Wilhelmi et al., 2021. These negative experiences ripple beyond individual candidates to shape broader employer brand perceptions as disappointed applicants share stories through professional networks and online platforms. Research documents specific frustration drivers that candidates cite most frequently. Overly complex application systems requiring redundant data entry or excessive personal information for initial screening generate abandonment, with qualified candidates opting to pursue opportunities elsewhere rather than invest time in burdensome processes. Hosknecht, 2020. Unprofessional interview experiences, poorly prepared interviewers, inappropriate questions, or discourteous treatment signal organizational dysfunction that candidates extrapolate to predict future employment experiences. Communication gaps, particularly extended silence following interviews, leave candidates uncertain about their status and form, lasting negative impressions, even among those ultimately receiving offers. JobVite, 2015. For successfully hired candidates, inadequate onboarding transforms initial enthusiasm into buyer's remorse remarkably quickly. Research indicates nearly one-third of new hires begin questioning their decision within the first 6 months, with poor onboarding experiences cited as significant factors in early departures. Bauer, 2010. When organizations fail to provide clear role expectations, necessary resources and tools, meaningful early work, or social integration opportunities, new employees experience stress and disengagement that frequently culminates in voluntary turnover, forcing the hiring cycle to begin anew. Evidence based organizational responses, establishing proper infrastructure and resources. Organizations serious about hiring excellence begin by ensuring adequate dedicated resources support the function. Research consistently identifies dedicated recruitment capacity as among the strongest predictors of superior hiring outcomes. Capelli and Keller, 2014. This means staffing talent acquisition teams appropriately for organizational hiring volume and complexity, rather than treating recruitment as an ancillary responsibility for hiring managers already consumed by operational duties. Key infrastructure investments include dedicated recruitment specialists who develop deep expertise in sourcing strategies, candidate assessment, and market intelligence, rather than generalist HR professionals handling recruitment alongside numerous other responsibilities. Modern applicant tracking systems providing candidate relationship management capabilities, automated workflow support, analytics dashboards, and integrations with sourcing platforms. Assessment tools and technologies, including validated pre employment tests, video interviewing platforms, skills based simulations, and reference checking services that enhance evaluation quality while improving efficiency. Employer branding resources supporting compelling careers website content, authentic employee testimonials, social media presence, and recruitment marketing campaigns that differentiate the organization in competitive talent markets. Adequate budgets for sourcing tools, job advertising, campus recruiting programs, diversity initiatives, and other strategic activities beyond basic operational necessities. Several forward thinking organizations exemplify this infrastructure focused approach. Marriott International established a dedicated talent acquisition center of excellence with specialized recruiting teams organized by business unit and role type, supported by centralized technology and analytics capabilities. This structure enabled consistency in candidate experience while maintaining deep business understanding among recruiters, contributing to recognition as a top employer and reducing time to fill metrics by 40%. Beyond resources, effective infrastructure requires clear process definition, establishing hiring stages, decision criteria, timeline expectations, and accountability for each phase. Taylor and Collins, 2000. Organizations should document competency frameworks defining knowledge, skills, and attributes required for different role families, creating objective foundations for job descriptions, sourcing strategies, and evaluation approaches. Regular process audits examining efficiency metrics, quality indicators, and stakeholder satisfaction ensure continuous refinement as organizational needs evolve. Casio and Aguinis, 2018. Creating exceptional candidate experiences through employer branding. Employer brand, the reputation and value proposition organizations offer current and prospective employees, significantly influences whether top talent chooses to apply, accepts offers, and recommends the organization to others. Research demonstrates that strong employer brands reduce hiring costs, shorten time to fill, and improve offer acceptance rates by making organizations preferred destinations rather than fallback options. Ewing et al., 2002. Tuzovic and Braidsko, 2021. Effective employer branding strategies incorporate authentic storytelling featuring real employee experiences, career progression examples, and organizational culture demonstrations rather than generic marketing language disconnected from workplace reality. Multi-channel presence ensuring visibility where target candidates spend time, including LinkedIn, industry-specific platforms, university career centers, professional association events, and employee networks. Differentiated value propositions clearly articulating what makes the organization distinctive, whether innovative work, mission-driven purpose, exceptional development opportunities, inclusive culture, or other compelling attributes. Employee advocacy programs empowering current team members to share experiences through social media, campus recruiting participation, and referral networks, leveraging their authentic voices and extensive networks. Targeted messaging tailored to different candidate segments rather than one-size-fits-all communications, recognizing that early career professionals, experienced specialists, and executive candidates prioritize different organizational attributes. Patagonia has built exceptional employer brand equity by aligning its recruitment messaging with authentic organizational values around environmental responsibility and work life integration. The company's careers content extensively features employee stories about participating in environmental activism, utilizing generous leave policies for outdoor pursuits, and contributing to sustainability initiatives, attracting candidates for whom these values resonate deeply. This authentic alignment generates self selection, with applicants pre qualifying their cultural fit before applying. Technology companies facing intense talent competition have invested particularly heavily in employer branding. Salesforce developed comprehensive digital content showcasing its equality focused culture, innovative products, and employee development programs through videos, social media, and an engaging careers website. Combined with strong Glassdoor ratings and extensive employee advocacy, these efforts position Salesforce as a preferred employer, attracting qualified applicants despite fierce competition for technology talent. Designing user friendly application processes. Application process design profoundly influences candidate perceptions and completion rates. Research documents that complicated, time consuming systems generate abandonment among qualified candidates unwilling to invest excessive effort before determining genuine mutual interest. Hosknecht, 2020. Conversely, streamlined approaches respecting candidate time while gathering necessary information create positive first impressions that strengthen employer brand and improve applicant pool quality. Evidence based application design principles include progressive information gathering, requesting only essential information for initial screening, with additional details collected later for advancing candidates rather than requiring comprehensive applications upfront. Mobile optimization, ensuring fully functional application experiences on smartphones and tablets, recognizing that many candidates research opportunities and apply outside traditional desktop environments. Resume parsing, automatically extracting relevant information from uploaded resumes rather than forcing redundant manual data entry into form fields. Transparent timelines, clearly communicating expected process stages, approximate duration, and next steps rather than leaving candidates uncertain about what to expect. Optional profile enhancement, allowing candidates to supplement traditional applications with video introductions, portfolio samples, or other materials showcasing capabilities and personality beyond what resumes convey. Bradford et al. 2019 found that video interview options increased candidate pursuit intentions by enabling applicants to demonstrate enthusiasm and cultural fit more effectively than text based applications alone. Similarly, research on mobile application experiences demonstrates that candidates increasingly expect smartphone friendly processes, with complex desktop only systems creating barriers particularly for younger demographics. Telly et al. 2021. Hilton redesigned its application process to reduce time to apply from 20 minutes to under 5 minutes for most positions by eliminating redundant questions, implementing resume parsing, and streamlining the initial screening to essential qualifications only. More detailed information is gathered from candidates advancing to interview stages. This redesign increased application completion rates by 60% while improving applicant quality, as the simplified process attracted more passive candidates willing to explore opportunities but unwilling to invest extensive time in initial applications. Implementing holistic candidate evaluation methods. Traditional resume centric evaluation approaches suffer from well documented limitations, including susceptibility to bias, poor predictive validity for actual job performance, and incomplete representation of candidate capabilities. Highhouse, 2008. More sophisticated organizations implement multi method assessment approaches, incorporating diverse data sources that collectively provide richer, more accurate pictures of candidate potential. Comprehensive evaluation frameworks incorporate structured behavioral interviews using consistent questions across candidates focused on past experiences, demonstrating competencies required for success, with standardized rating criteria, reducing interviewer bias. Work simulations and assessments requiring candidates to complete tasks representative of actual job responsibilities, providing direct performance evidence more predictive than self reported capabilities. Cognitive ability and personality assessments, measuring general mental ability and personality dimensions, shown to predict job performance and cultural fit when properly validated. Reference checks gathering systematic feedback from previous supervisors and colleagues about candidate strengths, development areas, and work style rather than perfunctory verification of employment dates. Diverse interview panels including multiple perspectives and reducing individual biases through collective evaluation and discussion. McDaniel et al. 2007 conducted comprehensive meta-analysis demonstrating that structured interviews significantly outperform unstructured approaches in predicting subsequent job performance. The predictive advantage stems from consistent evaluation criteria, reduced influence of irrelevant factors, and better coverage of job-relevant competencies. Behavioral interviewing techniques asking candidates to describe specific past situations, actions taken, and results achieved provide particularly valuable insights. O'Keefe and Peru, 2021. Deloitte transformed its evaluation approach by implementing strength-based assessments, focusing on candidates' natural talents and potential, rather than solely evaluating credentials and past experiences. The firm developed simulations reflecting actual consulting work, incorporated personality assessments, measuring cultural fit dimensions, and trained interviewers in structured techniques. These changes improved diversity outcomes by reducing bias while enhancing predictive validity, with new hires selected through the revised process showing higher performance ratings and lower early-stage attrition. Assessment approaches should align with specific role requirements rather than applying uniform methods regardless of position. Entry-level roles may emphasize cognitive ability, trainability, and cultural fit, while senior positions warrant greater focus on leadership competencies, strategic thinking, and change management capabilities. Technical roles benefit particularly from skills-based assessments and work samples, while relationship-intensive positions require evaluation of interpersonal effectiveness and emotional intelligence. Gatewood et al., 2019. Providing constructive candidate feedback. Most organizations send generic rejection communications offering no insight into selection rationale, or worse, fail to notify unsuccessful candidates at all. This approach damages employer brand, wastes valuable developmental information candidates could apply to strengthen future applications, and squanders opportunities to maintain positive relationships with talent who might prove ideal for different roles or timing. Bradford and Brown, 2018. Effective feedback practices include timely communication, notifying all candidates of decisions promptly rather than leaving them uncertain about their status indefinitely. Specific developmental guidance, identifying particular competency gaps or experience limitations rather than vague statements about other candidates being better fits. Personalized delivery through direct emails or calls from hiring managers for finalists rather than automated rejection messages for all unsuccessful candidates. Future opportunity encouragement for strong candidates whose qualifications didn't align with the specific opening, but who should consider other positions. Feedback request mechanisms, gathering candidate input on their experience to inform continuous process improvement. Research demonstrates that candidates receiving specific, constructive feedback maintain more positive perceptions of organizations even when not selected, express greater willingness to apply for future positions, and provide more favorable word-of-mouth recommendations. Roth et al., 2008. The developmental value candidates derive from understanding their relative strengths and areas for growth represents meaningful benefit that distinguishes respectful organizations from those treating applicants as interchangeable commodities. Unilever implemented structured feedback for all candidates advancing to final interview stages, with hiring managers providing 10-minute phone conversations outlining specific evaluation results, highlighting demonstrated strengths, and offering developmental suggestions. While requiring additional time investment, this practice generated measurably improved candidate satisfaction scores, increased reapplication rates for subsequent openings, and strengthened employer brand perceptions reflected in improved Glassdoor ratings. Executing strategic onboarding programs. The transition period when new hires begin their tenure represents a critical juncture, where initial enthusiasm either solidifies into lasting commitment or erodes into regret. Research indicates that nearly one-third of new employees begin questioning their decision within 6 months, with inadequate onboarding experiences cited as significant factors in early voluntary departures. Bauer, 2010. Given the substantial investments organizations make identifying and attracting talent, neglecting the final stage that determines whether new hires succeed and remain proves remarkably short-sighted. Comprehensive onboarding programs incorporate pre-arrival preparation shipping equipment, providing access credentials, sharing pre-reading materials, and connecting new hires with colleagues before the official start date to build excitement and reduce first-day anxiety. Structured first-week experiences, balancing administrative necessities with meaningful work, team introductions, organizational orientation, and early wins that validate hiring decisions. Role-specific training, delivering knowledge and skills required for effectiveness, rather than generic organizational overviews disconnected from actual job responsibilities. Social integration support through assigned mentors or buddies, team lunches, introduction to cross-functional partners, and participation in social activities that build relationships and sense of belonging. Regular check-ins at 30, 60, and 90 days, gathering feedback on the experience, addressing concerns proactively, and adjusting support based on individual needs. Cable et al. 2013 found that onboarding approaches emphasizing new hire strengths and encouraging authentic self-expression generated significantly higher engagement and retention compared to traditional assimilation-focused programs emphasizing organizational norms and compliance. This research suggests that effective onboarding balances organizational integration with validation of what new hires uniquely contribute. Technology platforms can substantially enhance onboarding efficiency and consistency while maintaining personalization. Digital onboarding portals provide centralized access to required forms, training modules, organizational resources, and team directories. Automated workflows ensure timely completion of administrative requirements, technology provisioning, and staged information delivery, rather than overwhelming new hires with excessive detail on day one. PwC developed a comprehensive digital onboarding platform, providing customized 90-day roadmaps for each role, incorporating interactive training modules, virtual introductions to colleagues, and gamified organizational knowledge assessments. The platform integrates with collaboration tools, facilitating connections with assigned mentors and peer cohorts. Combined with in-person experiences, including orientation programs and team activities, this blended approach reduced new hire time to productivity by 30%, while improving 6-month retention rates by 25%. Customization proves particularly important for onboarding effectiveness. Cookie-cutter programs failing to account for role requirements, prior experience levels, or individual learning preferences generate suboptimal outcomes. Chen and Fei, 2021. Organizations should develop role-specific onboarding curricula while maintaining flexibility for personalization based on new hire backgrounds and needs. Building long-term talent acquisition excellence. Developing continuous improvement capabilities. Sustaining hiring excellence requires ongoing refinement as organizational strategies evolve, labor markets shift, and candidate expectations change. Leading organizations establish systematic approaches for evaluating recruitment effectiveness and implementing evidence-based improvements rather than maintaining static processes indefinitely. Continuous improvement frameworks incorporate comprehensive metrics tracking monitoring quality indicators, new hire performance ratings, cultural fit assessments, hiring manager satisfaction, retention rates, alongside traditional efficiency measures, time to fill, cost per hire, offer acceptance rates. Regular stakeholder feedback, gathering input from candidates, hiring managers, and new hires about their experiences through surveys, focus groups, and structured debriefs. Process audits periodically examining each recruitment stage to identify bottlenecks, inconsistencies, or outdated practices requiring refinement. External benchmarking, comparing performance against industry standards and best-in-class organizations to identify gaps and opportunities. Experimentation mindset, piloting new approaches on limited scales, measuring impact rigorously, and scaling successful innovations while abandoning ineffective experiments. Organizations treating recruitment as strategic capability invest in analytics infrastructure, enabling data driven decisions. Modern applicant tracking systems generate extensive data about sourcing channel effectiveness, candidate progression through pipelines, time required for each stage, and ultimate hiring outcomes. Sophisticated organizations analyze these patterns to optimize investments, identify process inefficiencies, and predict future hiring needs based on historical patterns and growth projections. Casio and Aguinis, 2018. Technology continues evolving rapidly, creating opportunities for organizations willing to experiment thoughtfully. Artificial intelligence applications in recruitment span resume screening, candidate matching, interview scheduling, and even initial engagement through chatbots. While these technologies offer efficiency gains, they require careful implementation, ensuring they enhance rather than replace human judgment, and that algorithms don't perpetuate historical biases present in training data. Building recruitment marketing capabilities. As talent markets become increasingly candidate driven, organizations must adopt marketing principles to attract interest from passive candidates not actively job searching, but potentially open to compelling opportunities. This requires capabilities extending beyond traditional reactive recruitment, responding to applications into proactive strategies, building awareness and interest among target talent pools. Effective recruitment marketing incorporates segmented targeting strategies identifying specific talent pools based on skills, experience, location, and other relevant criteria, then developing tailored value propositions and outreach approaches for each segment. Content marketing creating valuable content, addressing career development topics, industry trends, and organizational culture that attracts target audiences and demonstrates thought leadership. Social media engagement, maintaining active presence on platforms where target candidates spend time, sharing authentic employee stories and organizational updates rather than purely promotional content. Search engine optimization, ensuring careers content ranks prominently for relevant keywords when candidates research opportunities. Campaign analytics measuring reach, engagement, and conversion metrics to optimize investments and messaging effectiveness. Companies competing for scarce technical talent have particularly embraced recruitment marketing approaches. IBM developed extensive content showcasing its work in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other emerging technologies through blogs, videos, and social media. This thought leadership attracts talented technologists interested in cutting edge work while demonstrating IBM's innovation focus. Combined with targeted advertising on technical platforms and university partnerships, these efforts maintain strong talent pipelines despite intense competition. Fostering inclusive hiring practices. Diverse teams consistently outperform homogeneous groups on creativity, problem solving, and decision quality. Yet traditional hiring practices often perpetuate historical patterns limiting diversity. Organizations committed to inclusive excellence systematically examine their processes to identify and eliminate barriers, disadvantaging underrepresented groups. Inclusive hiring practices include bias aware job descriptions using inclusive language, focusing on essential rather than preferred qualifications, and removing unnecessary requirements that disproportionately screen out diverse candidates. Structured evaluation criteria, reducing subjective judgments and gut feel assessments that frequently favor candidates demographically similar to interviewers. Diverse interview panels ensuring multiple perspectives participate in assessment and creating more welcoming environments for candidates from underrepresented backgrounds. Blind resume screening, removing demographic information like names, universities, and graduation years during initial reviews to focus evaluation on relevant qualifications. Partnerships with diverse talent sources, building relationships with organizations serving underrepresented communities, including historically Black colleges and universities, women in technology groups, veteran organizations, and disability focused networks. Research demonstrates that diverse hiring practices require intentional design. Good intentions alone prove insufficient to overcome unconscious biases and structural barriers embedded in traditional approaches. O'Keefe and Peru, 2021. Organizations achieving meaningful diversity progress implement systematic interventions supported by leadership accountability and regular measurement of outcomes. Conclusion: designing superior hiring processes requires moving beyond intuition based practices towards systematic approaches grounded in empirical evidence. The research synthesized throughout this article provides clear guidance. Establish proper infrastructure with adequate dedicated resources. Create compelling candidate experiences through authentic employer branding and user friendly applications. Implement holistic evaluation methods incorporating diverse assessment approaches. Provide constructive feedback, maintaining positive relationships even with unsuccessful candidates. And execute comprehensive onboarding programs setting new hires up for lasting success. Organizations implementing these evidence based practices gain measurable competitive advantages. They fill positions faster by attracting stronger applicant pools. They make better hiring decisions through superior evaluation methods. They integrate new hires more effectively through strategic onboarding. Most importantly, they build reputations as employers of choice that top talent actively seeks out rather than organizations struggling to generate interest. The transformation from adequate to excellent hiring requires sustained commitment and continuous refinement. Labor markets evolve, candidate expectations shift, and organizational strategies change, necessitating ongoing adaptation rather than static processes. Organizations treating recruitment as strategic capability, warranting ongoing investment and optimization position themselves to consistently access the talent required for competitive success. In today's economy, where human capital represents the primary source of sustainable advantage for most organizations, hiring excellence proves too important to leave to chance. By systematically applying the strategies discussed throughout this article, organizations can transform talent acquisition from administrative necessity into strategic differentiator, building workforces capable of executing ambitious strategies and adapting to whatever challenges the future presents.